Well, here we are, smack dab in the middle of summer. Somehow all the stores think it's back to school time already. Time to get a new wardrobe, time for new books, time for new everything, because looking good for school is what's really important. Really? What about teaching kids about the Messiah? That's what's really important. That's why I think unorthodox forms of schooling have the upper hand. Homeschooling, charter schools, all that kind of thing. After all, unorthodox teaching methods were the hallmark of my favorite teacher, Yeshua, the Messiah. And tonight, if he were here, I think he'd be characteristically a little unorthodox. Instead of Sabbath ceremonies, left, right, and center, I think he might say something like, "It's the end of the sixth day. The sun has set. And this is Shabbat Night Live!"
It's Shabbat Night Live from Charlotte, North Carolina, with your host, Michael Rood. Join Michael's guest hosts, Scott Laird and Matthew Hall, as they welcome, from Biblical Health TV, Chaim Goldman, and musical guests, Nason Clover and Alicia. Now, here he is, the Director of the Chronological Gospels International Relations, Scott Laird.
Well, hey, Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live. You have arrived, and that means we can start now. Direct from Charlotte, North Carolina, this is ground zero for contending for the faith once delivered to the saints. This is a religion-free zone. In fact, it's an unorthodox-free zone, too. We're so unorthodox, we're not going to teach you anything tonight. We're going to learn you. I mean, back in the days when I worked at McDonald's as a teenager, yeah, I know, I've repented of my fast food ways. We had a manager named Doug, and that's what Doug would say. He said, "I'm going to teach you something." He said, "We're going to learn you." Anyway, so that's, thanks for joining us tonight. That was totally random. The first thing I want to do is have you toss your talking note in the trash. You do that, and the truth is yours for the taking. This is going to be a fun ride tonight. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host. He is the worship leader of Aviv Worship and the guy with all the answers. He is a Rood Awakening's customer service representative extraordinaire, Matthew Hall. Welcome, Matthew.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. Yeah, it's good to be here. We're in the middle of July. It's summer. I don't know if your kids are getting all ready for back to school yet or not, but
We homeschool, so we're a bit unorthodox.
they're like us. Yeah,
so
that's
we
right.
don't really think about it till it's ready. It's time.
Yeah, we go to Walmart and we get a nice cool drink. We sit down and we watch everybody and we laugh.
Yeah.
Because all the hustle and bustle going on.
Yeah.
Oh, there's people lining up with all kinds of binders and pencils and pencil cases and this and that and the other thing, and the kids are following behind in their iPod. Just
I've always wondered what happens to the binders and the pencils from the last year. I mean, do they just disappear that they got to buy all new ones?
I don't know.
Or?
Back in my day, I mean, we used to keep them. We used to use them the next year, right? The only thing you do is you take out the pages and you'd rip them out and you'd use the binder the next day until it was all falling apart. But these days,
You got to have the new.
it's new every year, so I don't know whether things are just getting cheaply made or what. But anyway, that's neither your concern nor mine because we're both homeschooled, so we can do things the way that we want. So. Now, Michael, there's another guy who does anything he does any way he wants.
Right. Yes.
He's everywhere, and he's been everywhere this summer, and the guy's on tour like almost constantly, and our viewers are everywhere around the world. You can tune in on Roku. We're also on the Church Channel in America, GEB America, Hope TV in Canada, my home and native land, INSP in the UK, Omega Television, we're also on Enlace, the Spanish network, and actually everything you see there from Michael is in Spanish, so that's nice and handy there. In most Spanish-speaking countries in the world, you can see Enlace. We're also on YouTube, of course, on iTunes, we're on Messianic.tv, and we're on Google TV now as well. So, as you've heard the saying, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's when we always want to quit. Oh, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Forget it. Let's quit work and let's just go. And indeed, it's Shabbat somewhere tonight. Pretty much all around the world right now, it's Shabbat at some point.
At some point,
yep. Yeah. So no matter where you're watching from Shabbat Night Live, from the other end of the world or across the street here in Rood Awakening's galactic headquarters here in Charlotte, North Carolina, we can all be on the same page on the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. It looks just like that. If you don't have yours, get it. Lots of good stuff in here. We've correlated the chronological Gospels with every date in here. Not every date, but there's a lot of things in here that correlate with the chronological Gospels and what happened in Yeshua's life. So it's basically the anniversaries of all the events in his 70-week ministry.
Right.
And another bonus is you can get $20 off. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But first of all, we are on the 4th Shabbat of the 4th month. So we're still in Tammuz. There we are right there. The 4th week of Tammuz, right there. And we look for the new moon early next week, right near the end of the month. So we'll look for that next week. That's going to be happening Tuesday or Wednesday next week. In Hebrew, that would be Yom Shlishi or Yom Revi'i. Did you ever learn Hebrew?
Just the basics, like
Yeah.
the names and dates and stuff like that.
Okay, so Yeshua and Yehovah and all this kind of thing, and maybe some words for worship and such like that.
Yep,
Okay,
kadosh. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kadosh and Kiddush and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I learned Hebrew an interesting kind of way. Back when I lived in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan is where I lived for many years. My wife and I. We were part of a Messianic group there, and we all wanted to learn Hebrew. And we thought, well, who better to teach us Hebrew than Jewish people? So we went to the local synagogue, and we said, hey, we know that you guys teach the little kids, like the kindergartners, Hebrew. Would you teach us the same thing? Like maybe we can come on a Sunday or something like that. We're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. So well, why don't we come over and we'll learn Hebrew?
Yeah.
So they said, yeah, sure. We only have one rule. That is, you don't try to make us Christian. We won't try to make you Jew. I said, all right, you got a deal. So they taught us everything that they taught the kindergartner kids. So I have sort of a basic understanding of Hebrew. We learned the days of the week, the colors, the numbers, all that kind of stuff. So it was a really fun time.
Did they treat you like kindergartners?
No, they kind of looked at us strangely when we didn't understand some things. But it was really interesting. We actually learned from a couple of Israelis.
Right.
There was an Israeli couple. I'm not sure if all the synagogues do this all over the world or not, but they were representatives from Israel. And they came over it was like an exchange program.
Oh, okay.
And so they came for a while, and then they would be there for 1 or 2 years, and then another couple would come, and they would do a little bit of traveling in their young lives before they had kids or anything like that.
Sure.
And so that's what they did. And actually, you know how in Israel everybody does a 2-year stint in the army or in the IDF.
Yeah.
And he was part of that. And so during our lessons, the couple of years that we had lessons, there was a conflict over in Israel, and he actually got called back to Israel.
While you guys
Canada.
were doing
Yeah.
Okay.
So his name was Yishai, which is Hebrew for Jesse. And he had to go back for a while. We were quite concerned about him, but he came back. Everything was okay. And yeah, we learned a lot of great stuff in Hebrew.
And did they charge you for this?
No, this was free.
Wow.
That was the amazing thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was all free. We could come in for like an hour a week every Sunday, and we learned Hebrew from these Israelis. It was the greatest thing because you didn't just learn, the basics, like what you could learn maybe from Rosetta Stone or something like that. They would teach us the things like you'd say on the street in Israel. So what the cool kids said. They were in teen ministry at the synagogue.
Okay, gotcha.
And so they taught us that if someone says, "Hey, how's it going?" In Hebrew, and then you'd say, "Eser," that means 10. And that was slang for 10 out of 10. I'm doing awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that meant cool or
like
awesome.
groovy or
groovy
rad.
or awesome or rad or whatever. Yeah, Eser, that's what it was.
I gotcha.
It means that's literally the number 10.
Wow.
Interesting, yeah. So getting back to the calendar, we're way past the 10th day on the month. We're back down here on the 4th week. And you can get this calendar for $30. It is quite a bargain because there's 15 months of calendar on here. That's like $2 a month. It all correlates with the chronological Gospels. And we're actually going to look into that right now. On this week, tomorrow is the day, actually the anniversary, of event number 65 in the chronological Gospels. And that is when Yeshua was teaching around the Kinneret, which is basically the Sea of Galilee. And he returns to Capharnaum, which is Capernaum. That's what you know as Capernaum. If you've ever heard Capharnaum, that's the pronunciation. Where he heals a paralyzed man. Oh, well, this is a good story. I think we should read this one.
Yes.
This is page 104 in the chronological Gospels, if you have it. We're going to read Luke's account of this story. It goes something like this. It came to pass on a certain day that there were Prushim and Torah scholars sitting around Yeshua as he was teaching those who came out of every town in the Galilee, in Judea and Jerusalem. And the power of Yehovah was present to heal them. Then men brought a man who was taken with a palsy in a bed. They were looking for a way to bring him in and to lay him before Yeshua. But when they could not find a way that they might bring him in because of the multitude, they went up upon the housetop and let him in with his couch through the ceiling in the midst before Yeshua. Now, we were talking about the different words. It's kind of funny that this is a couch.
Right. I mean, our understanding of couch, that's pretty extreme,
Lower it down
Yeah,
on chains and
I
like a
know,
big leather
right?
couch. No, this was like a stretcher. Right, yeah, obviously, yeah. So when he saw their faith, not even the guy's faith, the friend's faith, he said to him, "Sir, your sins are forgiven." The sages and the Pershim began to reason, saying, "Who is this that speaks blasphemy? Who can forgive sins but Elohim alone?" But when Yeshua perceived their thoughts, he said to them, "Why do you reason such evil in your hearts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise up and walk'?" So he said, "Okay, I guess we'll do that. But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority upon the earth to forgive sins," he spoke to the sick man of the palsy, "I say to you, arise, take your bed and go to your house." Immediately he rose up from them and took up that upon him which he lay, and departed to his own house, glorifying Yehovah. And they were all amazed and glorified Yehovah, and were filled with awe, saying, "We have seen strange things today."
Strange indeed.
Strange
Couches.
indeed, yes. So we talked about earlier about unorthodox teaching. And Yeshua definitely did that in this passage. I mean, he was unorthodox. You know what I mean? He just said, "Okay, fine. You know what? You want it done that way? Watch this."
I like that. I like that take on it.
Yeah, I know. I think he had a bit of attitude, or maybe not attitude necessarily. I mean, we don't want to portray Yeshua that way, but he was saying, "Look, Yeshua, Yehovah is more powerful than you think." And now the lame man's friends went to extremes. They lowered him through the roof. I mean, that's extreme in itself. And I think he was impressed by that. And that's maybe why, he healed the guy. Said, "Hey,
they were determined. It showed their determination."
Yeah, and I'm sure that really opened people's eyes up to the way that that God does things. Completely out of the box thinking. And he went, "Hey, you know what? These guys get it. God can do things that we don't think He can." Right. And so I'm going to do something.
Well, I think He's looking for us to take those extreme steps to show that not only do we believe that He can do what He says He's going to do, but that He will do it in that moment, even if it means just looking like fools and doing what we got to do to make it happen.
And you'll notice these guys had no doubt whatsoever. They were lowering him through the roof, completely expecting that he was going to be healed. And they had no doubt in their minds. I'm fully convinced that's why Yeshua did it. And that's the reason our families, in an indirect way, have decided to homeschool. It's unorthodox, Why do we need to fit into, you must fit into this system? Well, not necessarily. If we're teaching those same things and we can teach our own kids things that we want to teach them at home, why not? Right. And that's kind of here. Yeshua is saying, you know what, you want me to heal the guy? Why not? Watch this.
I think that people are scared of the unorthodox because they don't know what the end result's going to be.
Right.
Where if it's a structured thing, it's like, okay, well, at least I know this is where I'm going. I had a lady the other day talk to me, and she said, "Yeah, we had this homeschool. These kids would come over, and they graduated high school at 14. They were done with university at 17, and they were doing their master's degree." I mean, why? Because probably there was less distractions.
And there's a fellow here at work. His name is Tim. He's interning with us. He's in his 4th year of university. He was homeschooled his whole life. And I turned to Laura. You know Laura from the Rood review. And I turned to her the other day and I said, Tim, that kid is going to be a real leader one day. He has just got something about him where he is really professional. He's, everything he does is just really businesslike. And so, the kid was homeschooled. The whole.
But you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that.
You would
or you
never
wouldn't
know
assume
that. No. Yeah. So you don't have to fit into the mold, and that's something we're going to get into tonight. You have a lot more freedom in homeschool. You don't have to learn about health. For example, the way that the school wants you to learn about health, like sex ed and all this kind of thing, with kids who are way too young to be learning about that kind of stuff. So you can learn about biblical health as a class in homeschool. This is news now. Chaim Goldman is going to be coming up to tell us all about that very soon. He's got something from Biblical Health Television. It's a brand new curriculum for homeschoolers. You're going to love it. But first, speaking of homeschoolers, it's time for tonight's 7 signs. All right, very quickly now, it is the 7 signs that you're a homeschooler. Just in case you've been at home all the time, all your friends are going to school, you're going, what are those kids doing? You're in homeschool, here's how you know.
Why are they still in their pajamas?
Why are they still? Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Okay, number 7 reason, number 7 sign that you're a homeschooler, you consider homework an oxymoron. Yeah, well, I guess so. Number 6.
Home economics or home ec class starts shortly after Dad says, "Hey kids, what's for dinner?" There you go. Let's get it done.
Home ec class. When someone asks you if you like pie, you say, "Why, yes, 3.1415 is my favorite number."
Geek. Yeah.
Number 4.
In your neighborhood, you're that family.
Yeah, I've been there, done that. I'm
oh,
that
gosh.
family.
Just the other day. Yep.
Number 3, you take calculus. When you're 8.
That's a sign.
Yeah, nice sign you're a homeschooler. Number 2.
Your favorite thing to build with Legos is the periodic table.
Yeah, again,
Geek, yeah.
And the number 1 sign that you are a homeschooler, your official school uniform, footy jammies. There you have it, folks. Tonight's 7 signs will be up next with Chaim Goldman about a brand new homeschool program from Biblical Health Television. And straight up, it's the best of Q&A with Michael Rood. We'll see you in a minute.
The Chronological Gospels Bible includes every gospel account of the Messiah's life, more than 300 events over the course of exactly 70 weeks, all in chronological order, plus the books of Acts and Revelation also included. The Chronological Gospels enables you to truly understand the meaning of the Messiah's 70-week ministry. Michael Rood has spent over 40 years organizing the Gospels accounts.
It has taken me an entire lifetime to get his words in chronological order and in proper context.
Right now, you can own the Chronological Gospels Bible for just $69. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the Acts, and Revelation, all in chronological order, plus historical and cultural commentary you won't find in any other Bible. For a more in-depth study, consider the Chronological Gospels Essentials Package, containing the Chronological Gospels Bible, a detailed timeline chart of the Messiah's 70-week ministry, plus the introduction to the Chronological Gospels 4-DVD set. Get the Essentials Package now for just $117. If you're a Bible teacher or group study leader, consider the Chronological Gospels Educators Edition. It's the Chronological Gospels Bible in large print on regular size paper, plus convenient section tabs, all in a beautiful 3-ring binder. Yours for just $120. And for those who seek a deeper knowledge and understanding, get the Ultimate Collection, the Chronological Gospels Scholar Package. This package includes the Chronological Gospels Bible, the 4-DVD introduction set, the 70-week timeline chart, plus so much more. You get the entire Scholars Package for just $347, a savings of $97 off the retail price. Call or visit our website today to order your Chronological Gospels Bible or one of these package sets. For over 15 years, Michael Rood has blessed prisoners with Yahovah's promise. Now you have a chance to help reach out to those in prison seeking truth. For your gift of $50 or more, Michael will send a prisoner the Pagan Christian Connection, the detailed manual that exposes the biblical truth from tradition, and the mystery of iniquity. Readers will learn about the abomination of desolation prophesied by both Daniel and Yeshua. Also, they'll receive the 2014 astronomically and agriculturally corrected Biblical Hebrew calendar. This calendar will allow those around the world to keep the Almighty's appointed times. Give a gift of $100 or more this month, and Michael will bless prisoners with the Chronological Gospels Bible. This Bible pieces together the life and ministry of the Messiah. Call now with your gift of $50 or more, or with your gift of $100 or more to bless prisoners worldwide, or visit our website at www.aroodawakening.tv/freedom.
As an outreach program of Rood Awakening International, the Lydia Project helps to support the widows and orphans of Israel. Deuteronomy 15:7-8 is Yahovah's command that we support the poor among us. But we can't do it alone. We need your support. You can make a one-time donation or a monthly donation, all the while knowing you're making a difference. Visit thelydiaproject.com to make your donation. Help us to continue to support those believers in need in Israel.
Go to 2 Kings, because we want to know who are the Samaritans, so we're going to go to the scriptures. Now, ladies and gentlemen, every year I take our Israel tour up to meet with the son of the high priest of the Samaritans. He's in his 70s, but he was the son of the high priest of the Samaritans, and I take the group up there every year so that people can understand the background of the Samaritans. I let the priest tell the story. Not because the priest is telling the correct story, it's just that everyone needs to understand where the Samaritans are coming from. But now I'm going to read you out of the 17th chapter of 2 Kings so that you understand who the Samaritans are. Now, we really begin in verse 1 and to realize what happened with Israel as they then degraded into pagan sun god worship after the 10 northern tribes separated from Judah. This is at the time of Rehoboam or Rehoboam, when the 10 northern tribes separated under the leadership of Jeroboam, and then we have the southern tribes which became known as Judea. This is when the separation happened, but then they got into gross pagan sun god worship, and now I want to go all the way to verse 15, and we'll pick it up there. And they, Israel, the northern tribes, rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers and his testimonies, which he testified against them, and they followed vanity, and they became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord, or Yahovah, had charged them that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahovah, their Elohim, and made themselves molten images, even 2 calves, and made them a grove, and worshiped the host of heaven, and served Baalim, which are pagan gods. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire. They used divination and enchantments, etc., etc., etc. Now, verse 18. Therefore, Yahovah was very angry with Israel, removed them out of his sight, and there was none left but the tribe of Judah only. This is the southern tribes. Also, Judah kept not the commandments of Yahovah their Elohim, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. And Yahovah rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. And he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, king, etc., etc. Now we're going to find out what happened. Verse 23. Until Yahovah removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all but his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. Where did Israel go? They were carried away by Shalmaneser into the land of Assyria. And verse 24, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Kutha, and from Ava, and from Harmath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria, instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Yahovah. And who is it that feared him not? It is the pagans who were brought from Babylon and all these other nations, and they were brought and placed in the cities that once were inhabited by the Israelites. They were brought into Samaria. Where are the Israelites that once dwelled in Samaria? They have been carried away into Babylon and beyond. And in verse 25, and so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Yahovah. Therefore Yahovah sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed, which is Israel, and placed in the city, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria, so Israelites were moved out, and the pagans from Babylon were moved into the cities of Samaria. They do not know the manner of the God of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them. Behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the God of the land. And the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom you brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let them teach them the manner of the God of the land. Now we've got a problem here, because it says, then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear Yahovah. Now here's the problem. These were the priests that were the lowest of the people, that got that Jeroboam that didn't take Levites. He took people that didn't know the Torah, and he made them priests. These people have a twisted concept of the Most High. They were the ones that got Israel polluted with all the pagan worship, and so that's what got Israel thrown out of the land. Now, they've got a priest coming back to teach these people. You know, you've got the wrong people. They're not even Levites. They are government-supported 501c3 tax-exempt non-profit corporations doing business as. Okay? And so, howbeit, verse 29, every nation made gods of their own and put them in the houses of the high places, which the Samaritans had made, every nation in the cities wherein they dwell. And the men of Babylon made Succoth Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Arvites made Nibhaz, and Tartak. And the Sepharvites burnt their children in the fire to Adramelech and to Anamelech, the gods of the Sepharvaim. So they feared Yahovah, they respected him, not really. We find out that they really didn't do it, but they feared Yahovah and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared Yahovah and served their own gods after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence. So here is the answer to the question. It really doesn't matter what kind of nonsense anyone came up with in the 14th century. It doesn't matter what the priest of the Samaritans say today. It doesn't matter that they say that they're from Israel, because the scripture tells us they're not. This is why the Samaritans refuse to read the prophets. They will read the Torah, but they won't read the prophets, because the prophets tell us exactly what happened to Israel, that they were all carried away, and the people who are now dwelling now in northern Israel, in Samaria, are not Israelites. Don't even call them Jews. They were not of the tribe of Judah to begin with. Anyone that calls them Jews has no idea what they're talking about. To say that they were Jews who married outside the Jewish faith, this is pure nonsense, okay? This is nonsense. But this is the kind of stuff that you get when you read secular sources and when you quote Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not an authority on anything. Since buying your calendar, I've been doing a lot of Sabbath study into the new moon, and I've realized some significant truths along the way. And it says, currently, I'm trying to find the exact Bible references which actually state how to observe the new moon. Mm-hmm. Plus, why do we need to observe the new moon from Jerusalem? Well, I could answer that. I was all set to answer it, but when I found out you were coming, let's talk about that a little bit, because we do have an issue, people wanting to find every single detail in the scripture, and we need to understand a little bit about history as well. So
one of the things that I love about is this whole idea of time is that there's a skeleton that we find in the scriptures. When I say a skeleton, I'm saying that the framework for understanding God's clock, God's calendar, is right here. Mm-hmm. There are some historical things in terms of how traditionally and how historically the Jews have followed that. But what I love to do is open up this book. And Michael, folks, this is my book that is for 10 years I always wanted to be my book that I could read. It happens to be the Hebrew Scriptures. And this is what Paul would have read. This is what Yeshua would have read. That's right. This is what every New Testament writer would have read.
They didn't have a codex, but they would have been reading the scrolls.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I love to do is I love to look and see, when it comes to issues like this, as I mentioned, I'm dealing with time, Torah, and Tetragrammaton.
What we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. He won't show it to you, but this is what it is. This is what Keith is reading and then translating it over into English. He's reading the Hebrew Scriptures. He's fluent in the Hebrew Scriptures now.
Yeah.
And so
it's been a process. My friend Nehemiah has done an awesome job of teaching me these last 10 years. But one of the things I love is being able to look in and just see what it is before we get to English. For example, in this man that's written this question, the first thing that I want to do is I want to go to where do we understand this idea of looking to the moon, or getting a chance to know where the moon is. Mm-hmm. And in Exodus chapter 12, it says that the Yehovah said I'm sorry, you guys, let me get my, help if I'd have my glasses here. Oh, I've got my glasses. Oh, look at me. I'm in Genesis.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't have
Yeah,
to
if I have to borrow your glasses, Michael. Let me do this. In Exodus chapter chapter 12, Vayomer Yehovah said unto Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this shall be the Hodesh for you, the first or the head of the Hodesh for you, for the beginning of the year. Meaning in English it says, this shall be the month for you, the head, the first month of the year that you should actually look at. And so we asked ourselves, well, what does that mean? He's talking to Moses and Aaron, and he's looking up and he's saying, okay, so this shall be the first, the month. Well, if I read the Hebrew and it says the Hodesh, I'm thinking, okay, what's the root of that word? The idea of the new. The Hadash is the same as the word there for new. So as I look through that, I find out that when we see the Hodesh, we're talking about the month. Every month, 29 or 30 days, 29 or 30 days. If you look up and see the beginning of the month, you know that that begins the month, the beginning of the year. Real quick, if I go to Deuteronomy chapter 16, which is one I know I talked to you about 10 years ago, it says, guard the Hodesh Aviv, or guard the month of the Aviv.
Yes,
and
Ha'aviv.
Yeah, Ha'aviv, I'm sorry, yes, Ha'aviv, thank you, Michael. And do the Pesach, saying that that was the time that Yehovah took them out of Egypt. So when we see that, we say, so the month of the Aviv, and this shall be the first month for you, we begin to look through the scriptures and it jumps off the page. Okay. The idea being that they would be able to look in the month of the Aviv, the barley being Aviv, the new moon, which by the way I just came from this last year, got a chance to do it, understand it, and put a project together accordingly. It allows people to understand the simplicity of God's clock. The problem today is we've got people that are trying to confuse the matter, and let me just say something. They're using pagan practice and historical issues to screw around, if I can use that word, with God's clock so as to create something where they would not be dependent on Him, but they would be independent. And that's exactly where we're at right now.
That's right.
Over the past year, a Rood Awakening International's ambassadors have been sponsoring 89 countries to take the gospel of the kingdom to the world.
It's very seldom that you get a chance to be part of something that's in its infancy, that's beginning to go worldwide, to be part of something where you can look back and say, yeah, I did that. I was part of that. So I think my message to anybody who want to become an ambassador is the satisfaction of being there at ground zero as it just shockwaves around the world.
With these supporters' help, a Rood Awakening International has been able to broadcast on the Inspiration Channel in the UK, the Church Channel in the US, and Hope TV in Canada. But we need your help to reach the world. Now you can join the Ambassadors Club and help bring the message of Yeshua to those countries we've not yet been able to reach. There's still a great need to reach countries such as Ukraine, Syria, Malaysia, Korea, and so many more. With your gift of $100 per month or more, or your one-time gift of $1,200 or more, we can reach more countries.
I wanted to be a part of the ministry because I knew that the message Michael has is vital for the world to be able to know the truth. And Michael is teaching, preaching, and living the truth.
With your gift of $100 or more a month, Michael Rood would like to bless you with this pocket watch. Whenever you look at this pocket watch, let it not only be a reminder of the time, but of the many people whose lives you're touching by getting the truth of the kingdom into their country. Call today with your monthly gift of $100 or your one-time gift of $1,200 or more and become a member of the Ambassadors Club. Help us bring it to the world. In the past, your generosity has helped a Rood Awakening International to spread the truth of the kingdom to the far reaches of the earth. Now, Michael Rood wants to take his life's work, the chronological Gospels, into every home around the world.
Everything really boils down to the chronological Gospels, the life and 70-week ministry of the Messiah, to get Yeshua's words to the world.
For the first time ever, you're invited to take a personal role in bringing the truth of the chronological Gospels to television. For a one-time gift of $5,000, you'll be named an executive producer of one episode of the Chronological Gospels television series. Each episode is based on an event in Yeshua's ministry, as referenced in the Chronological Gospels Bible. As an executive producer, you'll receive your name as executive producer on the credits at the end of one of the episodes. You'll also receive 10 copies of the Chronological Gospels. These Bibles are meant to share with family or friends so they can understand Yeshua's true ministry. Also, you'll receive an engraved plaque recognizing you as an executive producer of the Chronological Gospels television series. This beautiful glass plaque is our gift to you, commemorating your generosity in helping us to reach the world through television. Becoming an executive producer of the Chronological Gospels television series helps to spread the message of Yeshua to the world. This is your opportunity to partner with Michael Rood for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Become an executive producer or honor a loved one by making a donation in their name. Call today or visit www.aroodawakening.tv/producer to become an executive producer of the Chronological Gospels television series. Help Michael Rood to spread the message of the real Yeshua to the world.
As an outreach program of Rood Awakening International, the Lydia Project helps to support the widows and orphans of Israel. Deuteronomy 15:7-8 is Yahovah's command that we support the poor among us. But we can't do it alone. We need your support. You can make a one-time donation or a monthly donation, all the while knowing you're making a difference. Visit thelydiaproject.com to make your donation. Help us to continue to support those believers in need in Israel.
In just a few minutes, we'll be talking with Chaim Goldman about a new homeschool curriculum, specifically about health. I'm really looking forward to this one. But first of all, if you want to teach biblical studies in your home, there's a way to do that. You can get the Educator's Edition of the Chronological Gospels. Now, this is exactly the same thing as the regular Chronological Gospels, all the same wording on the exact same pages so you can follow along, and that's kind of the idea of the Educator's Edition. You see, this one lies flat on your desk. So this is good for a teacher, or mom, or teacher, or, you know, as the case may be, both.
Yep.
So you can lay it on your desk, and you can read and teach from the Chronological Gospels. You can teach your kids all about what Yeshua did, when he did it, and why that matters, and they'll have a really good grasp on Yeshua's life and times, which sometimes I think in the Messianic world, we spend so much time with the Torah that we almost lose sight of Yeshua's actions and things like that. So this is a great resource for Messianic kids especially, and for the teachers. And now this Educator's Edition is $120. And you can get it on the same website as you get the other Chronological Gospels. It's chronogospels.com, and you go to the Buy Now, and you'll see this one there. So you buy the Chronological Gospels regular edition for the kids that you're homeschooling, and mom or dad, teacher, you get this one. You can teach along. There's lots of room on the pages to do some notes and things like that for next year. You know, if you have younger ones coming up,
right.
Save the notes for next year. So that is a great resource for parents. It's $120 from chronogospels.com. Go to the Buy Now section on the right-hand side, and you will see it there. So up next, we're going to be talking with Chaim Goldman about a homeschool project regarding health. You're going to love this. And up next, it's Ariella Stegall from Inside Israel, something about a new film project called Jerusalem 67. Ariella, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. Welcome back to Inside Israel for Shabbat Night Live. I'm Ariella Stegall. Joseph Schick and Jacob Septimus are teaming up to create a film on the 1967 Six-Day War. Jerusalem 67 will be about the people and the city of Jerusalem. The goal of this film is to give better understanding of what actually occurred during the short conflict. The Six-Day War changed the perception of Israel throughout the world and is a story that needs to be told. In other news, as the bombing from Hamas terrorists continues, Israel over the weekend took ground troops into Gaza with the attempts to weaken Hamas and their threat. Hamas terrorists have been using tunnels to travel from the northeast Gaza into Israel with the attempt of launching attacks on possibly civilians. The Israeli military is doing what they can to demolish this problematic network of tunnels. This is the third bloody battle between Hamas and Israel in a 6-year period. I'm Ariella Stegall, keeping the heart and concerns of Israel before you. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.
Thank you, Ariella. Always exciting stuff going on in the land of Israel. Can't wait to see the Jerusalem 67 film. All right, up next, as promised, we have a brand new homeschool option for you. And here to tell you all about it is the CEO and executive producer of Biblical Health Television. Please welcome, not a doctor, Chaim Goldman.
Hey.
How are you, Chaim?
Wow, great to be, when I'm here, so you're in that chair, I'm in that, it goes back and forth. Matthew, it's great.
Good to see you.
Great to see, and this whole show on education,
Yeah.
which is fantastic
Yep.
because that's, what my life is about, the biblical health education. So
Exactly.
it's really, really exciting to be here.
We figured, Yeshua was the original unorthodox teacher, so why not? We'll feature the whole thing today on Biblical Health Television. Now, you have a brand new, exciting project. We have it sitting on the desk here.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's great. So first of all, let's get into that in a minute. But first, what's new with BHTV? Tell us about it.
Well, it's been very exciting. We've been doing this now for 5 years at the
Wow.
taping of this program, and our core messaging is the same, getting health out to the body of Messiah, but it's become so much more as we've been getting revelation, because when you focus on stuff for a long time and you're doing things for the kingdom, you know what happens? The Almighty gives you more, when you walk in it. And so getting into this body, soul, and spirit message has really become a message of holiness, of complete separation and holiness. And the amazing thing is, as a believer who's been into Torah, we were prepared for this message, and we're finding that's why the church is sort of disconnected from it, because the Spirit may tell them to do something, but they don't really know about obedience. So actually coming from the Torah side and then getting into the health side, the worlds come together in a really amazing way. And what we're finding as we go out, two big things. We're speaking to a lot of people, the Hazims especially, are getting out to a lot of conferences, speaking with people who have worldwide ministries, and they're saying, where has this message been? Where is this sanctification message, this what we're calling the holistic gospel? Where's it been? We say, well, you know what? It's time for it now. And what I'm finding when I'm speaking to people, when we started this 5 years ago, we were thinking, who cares? The church is never going to receive this. But now when I talk to people, they want to eat better. Believers, they want to eat better. They're putting in gardens. And I realized, while we were being prepared in anonymity, like Moshe in the wilderness tending sheep, he was getting the ground prepared. So we're going in, not finding people going, what is this? They're saying, yes, tell us more. Oh, we can learn from a biblical perspective, tell us more. And so it's amazing what the Almighty does when you're in the kingdom. And then, personally getting it down, the not a doctor thing I'm loving, because what I realized is most people that I speak to are not doctors. Now I know you have your doctorate now, so you don't qualify anymore. But people are not a doctors, and so I let people, you don't need letters before your name, after your name. You can do this, and you can teach it and transform. Don't worry about being a doctor. Hey, I'm not a doctor, and look at me. I'm here.
Yeah, you can do this.
You can do this. That's become our motto.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Good point. Now, you mentioned that the Hazims are going around talking about Biblical Health Television. They've had a lot of great opportunities in the last 5 years. But just recently, you had your biggest event at the Florida Homeschool Convention.
Yeah,
what was that all about?
Amazing. Well, we decided a long time ago, we were thinking, who cares? Who will want biblical health materials? We realized that the homeschool market is primed for it. Why? Mostly they're believers, and even though Florida Homeschool Association isn't officially a Christian organization, but tends to be believers, and they want curriculum, and they want biblical-based curriculum, and they pay for it too. And so when we were trying to put an organization that would be self-sustaining, we said, this is the market. And you know what? We know this market because we are this market. We're homeschoolers.
Good
I
point.
have 6 children. The Hazims have 3 homeschool. You guys are, we have a lot here. We know this. So we went for it. And when we went down to Florida, we sponsored seminars. We taught seminars. We had a vendor who was very exciting, was vending for us in the homeschool space down there. And I got to walk the floor talking to people. And people are so excited about it. And what we were really talking about, which we were about to release, and now we're releasing, is a homeschool curriculum set up around lessons for healthy living. So it's not a homeschool curriculum. Mostly homeschoolers use it. Anybody can use it. So even if your children, go to the public schools or private schools, you can still get this and teach them real biblical health at home because it's an extensive curriculum, and
Okay, well-
so we've been working on this a long time.
So yeah, if you're working on it a long time, and if anybody can do it, why all the focus on the homeschool convention? then?
Well, because because the homeschoolers are, they're ready. They're already doing things unconventionally.
Okay.
We talk about this holiness, this separation coming out of Babylon. Well, homeschoolers, they've already made that decision in education. Now we're going to push them for the whole thing. So this curriculum has been really a decade in the making. Even though we did 2.0, we recorded about a year ago. It's been a decade in the making, because when the original Lessons for Healthy Living came out, what we call 1.0, people started showing it to their children. People started making up homeschool curriculum. So we started talking about it, and we actually years ago started to develop one for the first one. But when it came time to do this, we designed it because we said part of the reason we have 20-minute modules on the DVD series that we've been, people have been getting.
That's it right there.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's changing people's lives for sure. But doing this in 20-minute modules so that people would watch it and they would do it and get around to it. We were also thinking, well, how will this go into a homeschool curriculum? Because we're going to want to have a lesson module for each video. And now we're talking about children. So it really fit together, and it came together. And Connie is somebody who's been working with a friend of the ministry for a really long time. She's behind this. She's done professional homeschool. It's really amazing. And you can see we actually have versions. We're releasing this on a PDF. Yeah, it's big.
This is
it's actually
huge.
2 volumes. It's over 700 pages.
Look at that.
35 weeks of lessons. This is real. This isn't a joke. This is, when we put our mind to something, we do it right. It goes along with the DVD. The DVD comes with it. I just want to let people know, this is what happens when you print it out. In order to keep the price down, which we know homeschoolers are very concerned about, we're shipping it out on a CD-ROM, the DVD, and then a CD-ROM with a PDF, so people can print it out as they go, just print out the lesson plans, do it on their computer, or like we went for here, to print out the whole thing. We actually had to turn it into 2 volumes because when I went to the guy and I said, please bind this whole thing, he said, we don't have a binder that big. So suddenly, you say, let's do 2 volumes.
Well, look how huge that is.
And it goes along. But what's also what we found, making things more value, I test everything on Matthew, because in my homeschool combined, we say, what do you think of this? Is, every state's different. And so if you're homeschooling, you know what you need to do when you get into the middle and high school range, which is what we've designed this around, is earning credits. And we found out that you go through this, you can, of course in homeschool it's flexible and you can do what you want, but you can actually go through this, more than enough material to earn a full credit, go through a whole year, a full credit in health. And then, because with this information, do it again. You can go through it another year, the next year, a couple years later, go through it again, review the materials again, and earn the credit in Bible, because we have so much scripture in there.
Really?
That I love this. How many homeschool curriculums, algebra or whatever, English lit, is the whole family going to get into, benefit from it, and enjoy the ride and the experience of implementing it together? So you get this, definitely the DVDs, the whole family watches, young to old. But even the curriculum has something for everybody, because what are we doing here? You're transforming yourself, body, soul, and spirit. And you need to do this as believers. That's our whole message on Biblical Health TV, is as believers, not only can we do this, we're called to choose life. We have to do this, but training up our children so they don't get these darn bad habits that we got to break at adulthood. Training them up and programming them when they're young is so important, and that's our blessing. We did it for our own children, did it for Matthew's children, my children. We came up with this, and now we're sending it out to the whole world to do it. Thanks for having us on.
It sounds like
about
a heck of a value. I mean, if the whole family can do it, it's really a good value. So how can people get their hands on this?
Well, okay. So glad you asked. Because, our whole goal is to get this out there. But A Rood Awakening, when we started Biblical Health TV, Michael Rood was the first to jump in, did a webinar with us, put us on the map, got people to know, got us functional, and he's always supported us. And now he said, well, you're coming out with this. Let's do this through A Rood Awakening, get it to everybody. So we want people to go to a roodawakening.tv and get it, not just to get it through them, but we're just releasing it now. There's a great special that we're doing for the A Rood Awakening people. You'll just have to go over to the website to see what it is. But Michael's been such a great supporter. This ministry has always been behind biblical health, and so we're so happy to be here promoting it on here to get it out. But of course, biblicalhealth.tv is our main website. So after you're done getting this, get over there. And I know that this special isn't going to be forever. I know it's at least through this week that the show is airing. But, get over there, get this, start teaching. The new school year is coming up. And even if you don't have homeschoolers, do this for them at home.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chaim Goldman from
Scott.
biblicalhealth.tv. Get the curriculum for life, lessons for healthy living. It's a great curriculum to have. Get it at roodawakening.tv. You will see it there. Now over to the Rood Review with Annie and Laura. Ladies, take it away.
Hi, I'm Annie.
And I'm Laura.
And you're here in time for Rood Review.
And you're here in time for a lot of information.
I know, I'm excited about Yom Teruah.
Yom Teruah. I said it right. It's going to be the biggest event we've ever had. It's going to be Yom Teruah 2014, the Messianic International Convention. We're not talking about just an event. We're talking about Messianic International Convention.
Well, like you said, we're outgrowing hotels.
We are. Yeah, we found that out at Passover. We had to go over into an overflow room. We thought we got to go bigger. So we have a convention center this time.
And we are excited to see you there. We actually have a lot of people that have already registered, that have booked their hotel rooms, so we're anxious.
It's going to be at the Rochester Riverside Convention Center in Rochester, New York. And then the hotel that we're recommending you stay at is the Hyatt Regency in Rochester. Why do we want you to stay there? Well, the hotel connects to the convention center. It makes it so easy. And we got a room rate of $111 in order to stay at that hotel, plus tax, of course. That's a crazy room rate for New York.
That really is. And we would know, we love New York.
On TripAdvisor.com, it was rated the best hotel in Rochester. So it's the place to stay. There's a catch, Annie.
What's that?
You have to book your room by August 25th.
Okay.
They're not playing. I'm telling you. You have to get that room rate.
Well, and then the nice thing is, I mean, you don't have to pay for your hotel until you actually check in. So if anything were to change between August 25th and Yom Teruah, there's plenty of time for changes to be made.
We're gonna have breakout sessions. Lunch on Shabbat is provided as part of your registration, which I know makes everyone's life easier. We're gonna have a teen party with me and Annie, a team Yom Teruah party. If you trust us with your teens, you should bring them, because it's going to be awesome, because we're so young, I think is why.
Yeah, we'll stay young forever, but we'll treat them very nicely while we're there.
It'll be wonderful. So join us in Rochester, New York, September 26th through 28th. Go to roodawakening.tv/Yom Teruah. That is spelled
YOMTERUAH.
To register for the event. Your hotel room is not included in registration, but all of these awesome breakouts and your lunch is included in that registration. So go there to register.
Now, before we go, I definitely want to bring up Israel. I think all of our hearts are breaking right now.
Well, with social media and Facebook, you're able to see what's happening as it's happening. You're seeing the effect it has on your friends, and it's you can't turn a blind eye to it.
So I'd like to take a moment of time to just pray all together, all of us standing together, where two or more are gathered. Father, we do pray for healing. We pray for protection. We pray for safety. And we just pray that your spirit and your power, your might, your authority just conquers all.
Oh, yes. Amen. We pray that we ask that you will stand with us as we stand with Israel, and join us next week for a Rood Review. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, ladies. Up next, we'll be joining Michael in the Tent of Abraham for the Kiddush. And tonight's teaching, the final episode from the Judges series, The National Price of Perversion. But first, here's Mason Clover and Alicia with El Shaddai.
Let us go the strength of our God, on the strength of El Shaddai. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, for God is our strength, and in Him the victory is won. Hallelujah, it is finished, it is done. Yeshua is Lord, and in Him we've overcome. There's a trembling in the camp, a fear in the enemy's heart, as the army of the Lord raises its sword, and the hosts of hell will turn and flee before the name of Yeshua our Lord. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, for God is our strength, and in Him the victory is won. Hallelujah, it is finished, it is done. Yeshua is the Lord, and in Him we overcome. Whether by many or by few, the Lord shall arise. Within those who are yielded to His call, they will multiply His strength as they magnify His name, that He may be all in all. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, for God is our strength, and in Him the victory is won. Hallelujah, it is finished, it is done. Yeshua is the Lord, and in Him we've overcome. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, for God is our strength, and in Him the victory is won. Hallelujah, it is finished, it is done. Yeshua is the Lord, and in Him we've overcome. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, for God is our strength, and in Him the victory is won. Hallelujah, it is finished, it is done. Yeshua is the Lord, and in Him we've overcome.
Traditions that we inherited from Babylon through Constantine have us occasionally with a little plastic cup and a little round wafer in a church service having what is called communion. But Yeshua was not having communion with His disciples. It was the last meal before His crucifixion, which happened at the time the Passover lambs were being sacrificed the following morning. Yeshua took this opportunity to explain something that had been embedded in the Israelite culture for then over 1,000 years. Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine to Abraham, and he blessed the Most High, saying, Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Yeshua said, this represents my body, which will be broken for you. As often as you do it in remembrance of me. And so we break this bread and we do it in remembrance of Him. Likewise, Yeshua took the cup and He blessed the Most High with that blessing that Melchizedek blessed the Most High. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, the King of the universe, the creator of the fruit of the vine. Yeshua said, this represents my shed blood, which will be poured out for the remission of sin. I will not drink another drop of the fruit of the vine. You take my cup and divide it among yourselves, because I won't drink it until I drink it again with you in my Father's kingdom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, Yeshua will lift this cup and He will say, L'chaim, to life everlasting. And until then, we remember what He's done, and remember that marriage supper of the Lamb. Get ready.
welcome to the national price of perversion. In the last two incidents in the book of the Judges, it is dealing with the Levites and what the Levites are doing, the attitude of the Levites at this time. We see all through the book of the Judges, the Levites are basically absent. It is judges and prophets who are from different tribes, but the tribe of Levi, which is supposed to be the tribe that is selected to not only be the teachers, but also the judges, the physicians, those who are there to serve the nation of Israel, every one of the tribes, and that is why they have a very special relationship with the Almighty that is detailed in the 18th chapter of Deuteronomy. We find that in this first of the last two incidents, we have paid professional false prophets, Yohanan, who is a Levite, who is in it for the money. He will serve other gods. He will be a priest for a house of gods of Micah. And then when the money is raised and he has an opportunity to advance himself, he goes up with the tribe of Dan. They take over Laish, they burn it to the ground, and then he is made the priest of the tribe of Dan. They name the city then Dan. The city of Dan is still there. The archaeological remains, it is really one of the garden spots on the planet and absolutely beautiful. As a matter of fact, the spring waters that are coming out of the base of the Mount Hermon, which form the Dan River, it's so ice cold it is ideal for trout. And so they have trout farms along the way. The trout escape, and we actually go fly fishing on the Dan River in Israel when trout are not even native there. And it is just a gorgeous spot to be in such a relaxing place. And one of my favorite places in the land of Israel. It's about 30 miles from my house up on the Sea of Galilee. So this is an area that I love, and I can understand why Dan went up there and conquered the people of Laish and took over this area. But it was there at Laish, which became known as Dan, that Yohanan and his sons' sons, it says that they were the priests for the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. Now we're going to go through all of the period of the kings, first and second kings, which first and second Samuel are the first and second book of the kings. Kings 2 and 3 in your King James is also called the third and fourth book of the kings. And it's in the very end of the book of Kings that this is what it's talking about. They were the priests in there, the paid professional false prophets who would sell themselves out for a buck. Those are the Levites who are in Dan until they're destroyed. Now, we ended our last segment with Shalmaneser coming in, and this is during the reign of Hoshea. Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, came in and he carried away Israel. It says in chapter 2 Kings, chapter 17, and in verse 6, that it was the 9th year of Hoshea, who was in captivity at this point, that the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried away Israel into Assyria and placed them in the land of the Medes, into what is now Assyria, Iran, and Iraq. He scattered them all over and took those people and brought them back in to inhabit the land that Israel was taken from. And so this is what becomes known as the 10 lost tribes of the house of Israel. The house of Judah and the house of Israel were split, and this very section is going to tell us about that split that happened in the days of Solomon's son, Rehoboam, or Rehoboam in your King James, and Jeroboam, who then separated the 10 northern tribes and took them immediately into paganism. It was Jeroboam, in fact, that set up golden calves at Bethel and at Dan. They were primed for it. And he said, "These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought you out of the land of Egypt." And it's because Israel went into this gross sin, gross immorality, and the worship of other gods that they actually were taken into captivity. And it tells us that in verse 7, so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against Jehovah, which brought them up out of the land of Egypt. And they walked, in verse 8, after the way of the heathen. And verse 9, the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right in the sight of Yahovah, their Elohim. They built high places. They set themselves up images and groves under every tree and on every high hill. They put phallic symbols. They did as the heathen did. They served idols. And it continues on. I'm going through this very quickly before we pick up the main body of it. And then verse 13, yet the Lord testified. Yahovah testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, telling them to turn away from their evil ways. Keep my commandments and my statutes. Keep all of my Torah, which I commanded your fathers. And the very same thing that I spoke to them by all the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, they would not believe in Yahovah, but they followed vanity, and they became like the heathen did. They left, in verse 16, they left all of the commandments of Yahovah. They made molten images, and two calves, and a grove, and worshiped the host of heaven, and served Baalim. They caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire. They used divination, enchantments, contacting demonic spirits, familiar spirits, to get information from them. They sold themselves to do evil and to provoke Yahovah to anger. That is why it says in verse 18 that Yahovah was angry with them. He moved them out of his sight, and there was none left except the tribe of Judah only. Israel was taken away captive into other nations. Even to this day, before the sun rises every morning, the Orthodox are down at the wall and they are praying in their morning prayers before sunrise. They're praying for the return of the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the 10 lost tribes. They have been gone. And it says right there in verse 18, there was none left except the tribe of Judah only. So Judah is still praying for the return of Israel. And according to many Orthodox, they believe that Israel is scattered not only in that area, but then ended up being scattered all over the world, and that a lot of the people that call themselves Christians are probably of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You know, there's no way to prove it. They didn't look like Israel when they were thrown out of the land. They had gone into pagan sun worship. And if you take a look at the same pagan sun worship they were thrown out of the land for, this is part and parcel of Christianity today, unfortunately. The abominations of the heathen that got Israel thrown out of the land are the same abominations of the heathen that have become embedded in the Christian church through Rome. And then it says, but all that was left was the tribe of Judah. But it says, Judah did not keep the commandments of Yahovah. It tells us in verse 19 and following, they walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And Yahovah rejected all the seed of Israel, afflicted them, and delivered them in the hands of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight. And then verse 21 says that, going back in history, it says he rent Israel from the house of David, the 10 northern tribes. And they made Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, their king. And Jeroboam was one who drove Israel from following Yahovah. They made them sin a great sin because the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did, and then they departed from Yahovah. And so he departed from them. He removed them out of his sight, just as he swore by his servants, the prophets, and that is exactly why Israel was carried away out of their land into Assyria. And there they are unto this day. Now, of course, Assyria, from Assyria and the Assyrian Empire, then they went out from there. But it's staying even to that day, they're carried away. And there's been no return as far as the majority of the house of Israel. And it doesn't take a great math genius to figure this out. India, China, and Israel are all about the same age. Neither India nor China have been taken captive and forced out of their land. But both Israel, the northern 10 tribes, and Judah were taken out of their land. Even when Judah came back in and rebuilt the temple, Zerubbabel's temple, it's still recognized that most of the Jews never came back from Babylon. Most of the Torah scrolls, ancient Torah scrolls that we have today in Israel are from Babylon, because that's where most of the Jews were until Israel became a nation again in a day, 1948, May 15th, 1948, which is the 7th Sabbath of the county of the Omer. That is when Israel became a nation one day, and that is when the return of Judah out of this area happened and began in mass. But Israel has been gone longer, my goodness, and still not returned for the most part. But once they were carried away into Syria and went out from there, Judah went out, Israel never came back in. Oh yeah, there were a few that were in the north and they migrated down into the south. You've got some of the tribes that end up down there as far as individuals, but not the tribes, not the entire families. The entire families were taken out of the land. All you've got is a few stragglers, a few people that escape, a few people that get through the siege walls and around the Assyrian army that are able to get out and head down south and become part of Judea, okay? But for the most part, the 10 northern tribes have been gone and are gone still to this day. In verse 24, now we get some real history, ladies and gentlemen. The king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, from Kutah, from Avah, from Hamath, and from the Sepharvaim, and they placed them in the cities of Samaria. Samaria is the capital of northern Israel. And he placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Jehovah. They didn't know anything about him. Why? They're all pagans that were brought in. Therefore, Jehovah sent lions among them and slew some of them. That is why they spoke to the king of Assyria, Shalmaneser, saying, the nations which you have removed and placed in, removed from their homeland and placed in the cities of Samaria, we do not know the manner of the God of the land. That is why he sent lions among us and they're killing us, because we don't know the manner of the God of the land. And so, we brought our own gods with us, but, it doesn't seem to help. We seem to be out of synchronization with the God of the land. And so the king of Assyria commanded that they carry one of the priests that they had taken out of Israel and then have them come back in to Israel and teach these pagans the manner of the God of the land. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel and taught them how they should fear Jehovah. Wait just a minute here. Who is this priest? They're not Levites. See, in Dan, they had crooked priests, paid professional false prophets from the tribe of Levi. But this is not what Jeroboam did. No. Jeroboam took the lowest of the people who were not even Levites, and he made them the priest of this new religious system that he developed. Such as, instead of keeping a feast in the 7th month, the Feast of Sukkot, he had a feast like the Feast of Sukkot, but he did it in the 8th month. He changed all the feasts of the Lord. The people were no longer keeping the Sabbath. They finally went into complete idolatry, worshiping pagan gods. They were worshiping on Sunday when the sun god of Babylon was worshipped. Nimrod reincarnated as little baby Tammuz on December 25th. All of the accoutrements of Babylonian sun worship, that was part and parcel of their life. And these priests, now Levites, priests, got the people thrown out of the land. Now, these are the priests. This is the priest that's going to come back and teach the people how they should fear Jehovah. Oh, good luck on that one. And then it says, howbeit, every nation made gods of their own. They put them in their own places of worship and their own high places. And every nation that was brought from their own nations and brought into the land of Israel, they brought their own gods with them. In verse 30, it says, the men of Babylon made Sukkot Benot, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Arvites made Nibhaz and Tartak. And the Sepharvites burnt their children in fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, the gods of the Sepharvaim. So they feared the Lord and made unto themselves the lowest of the priestly high places, which sacrificed for them in the high places. They feared Yahovah, but yet they served their own gods. So feared Yahovah, what does that mean? Secretly, you know, they said this is the God of the land that we are now worshiping, but they were not worshiping the true God. They were worshiping the gods of their own choosing. So we continue on, verse 33. So, unto this day, in verse 34, they do after the former manners. They really, it says, they fear not the Lord. Now they say they fear Yahovah, but they don't really honor, respect, and obey him. So they say this, but they still do what they've always done. They still worship pagan gods like they did in their cities of their ancestry before they were brought to Israel. When they got to Israel, they were taught about the God of the land, but the twisted God of the land, according to these paid priests that Jeroboam set up originally. And so now it says that even though they say they fear Yahovah, it says they fear not Yahovah. They really don't. Neither do they follow after his statutes, ordinances, or the Torah and the commandments that Yahovah commanded of the children of Jacob, Israel. He is the one that made a covenant and charged Israel. And this is what he said. You shall not respect other gods. You shall not bow yourselves down to them. You shall not serve them. You shall not sacrifice to them. But Yahovah, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt with great power and an outstretched arm, him you shall fear, him you shall worship, and to him you shall do sacrifices. And the statutes and the ordinances and the Torah and the commandments which he wrote to you, you shall observe to do forever, and you shall never, ever respect any other gods. And the covenant that I've made with you, you shall not forget, you shall never respect their other gods. But Yahovah, him you shall fear. And he will deliver you out of the hand of the enemies. And this is what he told them. This is what he over and over and over. All of the Torah, all through Joshua, all through the judges, how many times you have to be told this? Then all the prophets that spoke during the reign of all the kings, but they would not listen. They did after their former manner. So, now we get to the so, because all this is talking about what Israel did, to get Israel thrown out of the land. Now we've got all these pagans coming into the land, and they are not fearing Yahovah. So these nations that came in feared Yahovah and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as did their fathers. So do they to this day. They say they follow him, but they don't do what he says to do. I know this King James English is a little bit difficult in here, but you have to understand that you can say you serve the true God. Oh, I just love Jesus. People say. But they don't listen to him. They don't do anything that he says to do. They get a t-shirt that says WWJD and they think, well, what would Jesus do? And they make up some kind of nonsense. What did Yeshua do? He found the place where it was written. He said what was written, and he did what was written. It's not a big mystery, people. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to Judges, because now we're going to pick it up. It came to pass in those days, chapter 19, that there was no king in Israel. And we, of course, know what it's all about now, because everyone's going to do whatever they think is right. And there was a certain Levite that was sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim. This isn't the same one, it's another Levite. He took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah, and his concubine, it says, played the whore against him and went from him and returned to her father's house and was there for 4 whole months. Now, to play the whore in this particular thing is not to be a prostitute. That is a death penalty for an Israelite. But to play the whore and go back to her father's house meant she wanted to go back under her father's covering because she was under her husband and was to submit to him. So to not submit to your husband is playing the whore. And this girl went back to her father's house. She played the whore, even though she was not a female prostitute. She played the whore, in other words, not submitting to her husband. And that's your biblical definition of playing the whore. And that's why, you know, in the Brit Hadashah, in the New Testament, it speaks of this over and over about women submitting to their husband, that their husband is their head. The head of the man is Messiah. The head of the Messiah is Yahovah, Elohim Almighty. Okay, there's an order here. But there's apparently something wrong in the relationship that we're going to pick up on a little later. And I think that, you know, his attitude toward her, first of all, this is his secondary consort. It's not his wife. His wife, we don't know how many wives he has, but this is a concubine and not a wife, which is in a different category here. And so now that she's been down there for 4 months, her husband then went down, and he wanted to speak friendly to her, the story goes, and to bring her back. And so he took his servant with him and took a couple of asses, and they came down and went into her father's house. And when the father of the girl saw him, he was very happy to see him. And his father-in-law, his concubine, you know, the Levites' concubine's father, retained him, and he abode with him for 3 days. So he ate with him, he drank with him, he lodged there, and it came to pass on the 4th day, he rose up early in the morning, got ready to go, and his father-in-law said, come on, let's have something to eat before you go. And so they sat down, they drank, they ate, they had a good time. It was too late to go. And so then the next morning he got up again. And then he said, oh, before you go, let's have some dinner, let's have some wine, let's make ourselves merry, and boom, again. Didn't go, slept the night. The next day, they got up and he said, have a bite to eat before you go, have a little bit of wine, and did it. And then finally, at the end of the day, he said, I have got to get out of here. And so he left. He left. They packed up and left, and then they are going by Jevis. It's Jerusalem, but the Jebusites live there. It's where the pagans are living there. And so they said, we're not going to stop here. I know the sun is going to set. I know that they are not going to welcome us in this city. Let's keep on going. And so what happens is that they come, let me find it here, right here. We'll pass over to Gibeah. In verse 13, he said to his servants, come, let's go over to one of these places to lodge at night in Gibeah, in Ramah. And so they went on over to Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin. And when they went into Gibeah to lodge there, he sat down the street of the city, and because they were looking for someone to welcome them into their house so they would have lodging. And no one did. But then an old man came out from the field in the evening, And he was also from Mount Ephraim, originally from Mount Ephraim. And so, you know, the Levite has been up there in Mount Ephraim, and so he said, come on in to the Levite. And so when he came into the lodging, it says that he gave the background of why he was up there, that in verse 18, it says, we are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, toward the side of Mount Ephraim, and so we are going to go up to the house of Yahovah, and there's no man to receive us. And so now, yeah, we're going to the house of Yahovah. He's really fetched his wife. They're going back home. And so the man said, I have enough straw and provision for your asses, and I've got bread and wine for you, for your servant, and also for your handmaid, for your concubine. There's nothing that we want. Said, come on, peace, come on, peace, shalom, come on in. Everything that you want, I can take care of. You're going to need nothing. And so he brought the man into his house, and he fed his asses, and now everything seems to be fine. In verse 22, now as they were making their hearts merry, they got wine, they got food, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about. They circled the house, and they beat on the door, and they spoke to the master of the house, the old man, and said, bring forth that man that came into your house, so we may know him. Now, when he says that we may know him, we're not talking about the same that we may know him as in Joseph knew his wife and brought, no, this is a different situation. And before we go into it and find out what the price of this perversion is going to cost the nation of Israel, we're going to take just a quick break, as we do each week. Those of you who are watching for the first time, now you will know that this is when we give you the opportunity to participate in this ministry. The reason that we are on in more than 160 countries of the world, that you're watching us on the internet or by television, whatever, is because there have been others whose lives have been touched in the past, and they have stood with me so that I could get to you and to bring the gospel of the kingdom to you. Because everything that I'm doing, everything I'm teaching, I'm giving you the background to the Gospels. I'm giving you the background so that you can understand what Yeshua was saying in the context of Israel. Yeshua did not come down out of the sky in the middle, just out of the blue. No, he came into a culture that had been in place for thousands of years. And he is correcting things that are wrong and teaching us how to walk out the instructions in the Torah, the same instructions that these people had walked away from. So now, you have the opportunity, just like those in the past have, you have the opportunity to help me to reach out to others and to stay on these networks and to stay in this venue. And so I'm asking you to stand with us. Be a part of this ministry. Be a member of the Ambassador Club. $100 or more a month. Stand with us so we can make our commitments and stay on the air. We'll give you just a few moments here. the Levite, his concubine, his servant, were all in the home of this old man that was originally from Mount Ephraim, who's now living in Gibeah. They are eating and drinking, they're having a good time, and then it says that there were men of that city, and these are Benjamites, certain sons of Belial, sons of Satan is another way of saying this, and this is only to those who are the ultimate in depravity, unredeemable, who have gone so far down that there is no hope for. That's when the sons of Belial is used. It says they beset the house round about. They beat on the door. They yelled at the master of the house, the old man, and says, bring forth the men that came into this house so that we may rape them. This is what happens when you have large number of sex perverts all together. Oh, they march and they say they want equal rights and all this. No, when people will do this to people, when you have, in one denomination out there, one religious system, in one area, one area out in California, out of one seminary in that area, they have 5,000 registered pedophiles. This is the ultimate in debauchery, and these are priests of a particular religious system. 5,000 registered pedophiles. I'll tell you, that is one, well, what do you say? House of debauchery. Yeah, it's religion, all right, religion. These are sons of Belial, a whole group of them, and this is what's going on right there. And they will probably take them, rape them, and then kill them. That's commonly what is done. And so the master of the house, it says, he went out and he said, no, do not do this wicked thing. These people have come unto my house, they're under my protection, do not do this foolish thing. Look, here's my daughter, she's a virgin, and his concubine. We'll bring them out to you. Do with them what you want. But don't do to these men such a vile thing. Now, in one way, I think this is like Lot speaking to the sex perverts there at the city of Sodom. And he said, oh, you take my daughters, expecting that, no, they don't want the daughters. They're not into normal stuff at all. No, these guys are into the vilest, most gross. I mean, as Paul says, it's a shame to even speak of the things that they do. I mean, if we just pause for a moment of silence just to think what these people do, that would be a dishonor to even think for a second of what these vile people do. Oh, well, you might want to call it an alternative lifestyle, but I don't call that kind of debauchery alternative. The Creator created the heavens and the earth, and he said there are some things that are just outside of the bounds of human decency you don't do. This is one of them, ladies and gentlemen. Well, there's probably about 20 of them right here. But it says that the men wouldn't listen to him. So the man took his concubine and threw her out the door. And they abused her all night until the morning, and when the day began to break, they let her go. The woman came back to the house, found the door, and then fell down at the door. When her Lord rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house to go his way, it says that this woman, his concubine, her hands were on the threshold of the door, and he said, get up, let's go. But she didn't answer. She's dead. Now, this is really hard to imagine. But obviously, this is giving us an idea why she played the whore and went back to her father's house. See, the second wife is in Hebrew is called the vexer. And if a man has one wife, and of course in the scripture, in the land of Israel back then, not so today, but back then, it was lawful to have more than one wife. We see that Gideon had many wives, and then he had a concubine as well as many wives. That was in the land of Israel then. It's illegal today. Now, if you're a Jew, you come from Morocco or some other Eastern country, and you have several wives, when you come to Israel, make aliyah, you still have to take care of them. They're your wives, but you can't have any more. Your children growing up in the same house, they get one wife. That's it, period. That's the law, okay? But in these times, that was not so. So we can see that this girl was probably mistreated to begin with. And it's important here that it says that when her Lord opened the door in the morning, see, this is the proper perspective. This is what Sarah called Abraham, Baal, or my Lord, Baali, my Lord, which means husband in Hebrew, but it simply means my Lord, my master. And yet, if she will call him my Lord, then what that makes her is my lady. And if a man is respected as the head of his house and respected as a lord, as a master, then by all right, she will be treated as a lady, the lady of the house. And it's not just the lady of the house, no, she's treated like a lady. This is her castle as well. It's where the queen lives, because, ladies and gentlemen, in this life, the home, with the husband being the Lord and the wife being the lady, that's as close as royalty as we are ever going to get in this life, okay? And that's why each has to be treated with that same respect. This man did not treat his wife as a lady. He treated her with absolute disdain. She's dead. So, he saddled up his ass and he went back home. When he got there, in verse 29, it says that he took a knife and he laid hold on his concubine and he cut her up into 12 pieces. And then he took her body parts and sent them into all the coast of Israel, to the 12 tribes of Israel. And when that was done, all that saw the body parts and the proclamation that came with it, they said, we have never seen anything like this ever done in the land of Israel from the day that we came up out of the land of Egypt. Never has been such a deed has been done. Now, that's not just cutting the woman up. It is the sodomy that was going to be perpetrated upon that Levite and upon his servant. And what they did is that they raped his concubine to death. He said, this has never happened before. You need to consider this. And then you need to speak about this. And then you need to speak your mind. And so now, what happens out of this is war with the Benjamites. Judges chapter 20, verse 1, it says, then all of the children of Israel, they all went out of the congregation, and all the congregation was gathered together as one man from Dan to Beersheba with the land of Gilead, and they gathered together unto Yahovah in Mizpeh. And the chief of all the people, in verse 2, even all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Whoa, we got nearly a 500,000 man army now that have come together. And they said, tell us about this wickedness. And the Levite, the husband of the woman, answered them and told them everything that took place. And then he said, I cut my concubine up in pieces, verse 6, sent her throughout all Israel, so that everyone will know what has happened, and now someone has got to take responsibility for this. In verse 10, it says that we will take 10 men out of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, 10% is what they're looking at. I need you to get all the victuals together, all the food together, because we are going up to Gibeah in the area of Benjamin, and we are going to go to war against them. First of all, they're going to go up and they are going to ask them for these men who have done such a thing. Verse 13, deliver us, the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin refused. They would not hearken unto the voice of their brethren. But Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities, all the cities of the Benjamites, to Gibeah, to do battle against Israel. They were going to protect these sex perverts. They were going to stand up for the rights of these sex perverts to rape and murder Israelites. To do a thing that the Torah says you put them to death for this. Do not let this sexual perversion of the Canaanites dwell among you. This will bring you down. It will bring your entire nation down. You destroy them. But now we've got these Benjamites who they want to protect them. So they gathered out of all the cities 26,000 men that drew sword beside the inhabitants of Gibeah, which were numbered 700 chosen men. So when you got 26,000 and only 700 in this one city, you can see all the cities. They all came out. And so there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Everyone could sling a stone at a hairbreadth and not miss. These were some bad warriors that are going to protect these sex perverts. So now, 400,000 on foot. These are the ones that are going to go to war against Benjamin. And so the children of Israel, it tells us, went up to the house of God and asked counsel. Now, first of all, this is in Shiloh. This is where the tabernacle is and the Ark of the Covenant. So they are there at Shiloh. They are south of Mount Ephraim, and now they're on their way down, and they know that it's war. But they first of all ask counsel. It says, which of us should go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin? And Yahweh said, Judah shall go up first. And the children of Israel rose up in the morning and camped against Gibeah. The men of Israel went out to do battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel put themselves array in getting ready to fight against the men that have all gathered at Gibeah, 26,000. And then the gates opened up, and the children of Benjamin came out and destroyed down to the ground 22,000 men. Wait, there are only 26,000 of the tribe of Benjamin, and they killed 22,000 men. And who is it that they've gone up against? Judah, out of whom will come the king line. Out of Judah will come the deliverer. And they are whittling down by 22,000 men. They've taken them down. And the people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves. They set their battle in array in this and put themselves all in place just like they did the first day. And then they went up and they wept all day, all evening, because of this slaughter. And they asked counsel again. They prayed, shall I go up to battle again against the children of Benjamin, my brother? Now he adds in my brother. It's my brother. Okay, did I do something wrong? He's my brother. What? You said to get rid of this sin out of the land. They refused to do it. They fight against us. What shall we do? Yahweh said, go up against them. So Israel came up against Benjamin the second day. And again, Benjamin comes out of Gibeah and destroyed down to the ground 18,000 more men. Oh my, 18,000 more. And so then Israel backed away. They went all the way back up to Shiloh, went up to the house of God, and there they wept. And they sat before Yahovah all day. They fasted the whole day until evening. They offered burnt offerings. They offered peace offerings like they had before. They do not understand 22,000. Another 18,000 are dead, and they've made no headway. They've changed nothing. This nation is paying such a price. And they again inquired of Yahovah. And your King James in parentheses says right here that, and the Ark of the Covenant was there in those days. So, you know, they are really there. They are in the presence of the Almighty. The Ark is there. It's emphasizing it again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a shadow picture. When evil is allowed to live and survive in the land, when sexual perversion is given free rein and is ordained so that they can get married, then we are going to see destruction on every hand. The Almighty has told us this. His ark was there. They prayed, they fasted over and over. The Almighty says, go up and fight against them, and nothing but death and bloodshed on the innocent results. And so Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, he cried out, shall I again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? And Yahovah said plainly, go up, tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand. Why did he not say this before? Why did he not give them victory before? Because when there is evil that's allowed to promulgate in the land, when you have people who will protect them, then the death, the bloodshed, the mayhem, as this civilization goes down, is going to cost the entire nation. And so now, Israel set an ambush now. In King James, it calls them liars in wait. They lie in wait. It's an ambush round about Gibeah. And so they went up against Benjamin on the third day. They put themselves in array against Gibeah, just as they had done the other times. They're all right at there making the attack at the weak point, which is the front gate, not the walls all the way around. But now, when the children of Israel went out against the people, they were drawn away from the city. And so they began the retreat, and they saw this was just like it had happened other times. They began to kill some of the people, and they started to retreat a little bit, going back down the highway. You know, the one that goes to the house of God, the one that goes up to Shiloh. And then as they are retreating, and now you've got the 26,000 men who are all on the attack as Israel retreats. And just as that happens, then all of the ambush men then came around and then entered into the city and then torched the city. Before the 26,000 understood what was going on, they looked back and saw the city on fire. They knew that their city had been taken. And now you've got all of the ones who did the ambush, the tens of thousands doing the ambush, are back in the city, and now here they are all the way up on the highway on the way back, on the way to Shiloh. And so they turn back and see their city's been taken, so they start going the other way. And so now the rest of the army then closes in, and then they all take them out. And all that is left, ladies and gentlemen, are 600 men. They go in and they wipe out the cities. They wipe out the cities of the Benjamites. They kill all the women. They kill all of the men. There's nothing left for them. And there's 600 left, 600 men left of all of the tribe of Benjamin. And so they hole up at a rock. I'm going to find where we are. I've lost my place here. Go to chapter 21 and verse 1. Now the men of Israel had sworn when they were in Mizpeh, and Mizpeh is where they all gathered together, right there. It's 21, verse 1. And they swore to Yahovah, and they said that we are not going to give any of us, we are not going to give our wives to any of them. We've killed all their women, but we are not going to give our daughters to be their wives. It's not going to happen. Then the people came to the house of God, and they lifted up their voices, and they wept sorely, and said, O Yahovah, the God of Israel, why is this come to pass in Israel, that there should be today one tribe lacking in Israel? And it came to pass on the next day, the people rose up and built an altar and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. They were torn up about this. They had lost more of their own people as far as the whole nation of Israel that came up against them than the 26,000 plus all the women, and they wouldn't take out the little girls, but anyone of marriageable age who had known a man, they were gone. There were no women left for these 600 men. And it looked like there was no one going to be left of all of Israel, of this tribe. So what are they going to do? They swore they wouldn't give their wives. And so what they did is they said, okay, was there any tribe that didn't come and fight with us, who did not jeopard their lives and did not swear this? And so what they did is, oh yeah, these people, they did not come and fight with us. They chickened out of the battle, and so they went up there, killed them, took their wives, and gave them away. And yet, they were still missing a few people, a few women, in order for each one of these Benjamites, these 600 men, to have a wife. And so, they came up with a plan. And this is where the book ends. They come up with a plan, and that is, at Shiloh, every year, the Feast of Tabernacles, the young virgins go out into the vineyard and they dance out there. And so what we're going to do is tell every man of the tribe of Dan that doesn't have a wife that he's to sneak into the vineyard, and when the girls come out to dance, then they are to grab a girl and take her back home to be his wife. And this is exactly what they did. And when their fathers and family came to them and said, you know, we've got to go to combat, we got to go to war, we got to get my daughter back, he said, no. Let it be. We're not going to do it. We have to do this in order for that tribe to survive. And so that is why the tribe of Benjamin continued to survive. Now in the land of Israel, every year, they have a reenactment of this, but it's actually turned into an orgy that takes place out there. Because why? It's still an unredeemed land. Still things that are not right are still transpiring in the land of Israel. There are sex slaves in the land of Israel. I knew actually where the house was because it became news. You know, human trafficking, prostitution in the land of Israel. It's happening even today, ladies and gentlemen, but nothing compared to what we see happening in America. Nothing compared to what is going on here. And our nation's leaders are turning not only a blind eye, our nation's leaders are encouraging sexual perversion and telling people, our nation's leader telling people to go to another state, men getting married to men, women to women, men to sheep. women to dogs. I mean, you know, I don't know where it's going to stop because all these are forbidden in the scripture. But ladies and gentlemen, this is our time to teach the gospel of the kingdom, to teach the commandments, and to call people to a standard of righteousness that has been here all the time. None of these commandments have been nailed to the cross. The rules and regulations, the additional rules and regulations of Phariseeism, they've all been nailed to the cross, but nothing of the eternal word of Yahovah has been nailed to the cross. Yeshua endorsed it, he stood on it, and he is encouraging us to listen to him, obey him, because if we do and obey, we will, in the end, be rewarded for our steadfastness. May Yahovah have mercy on America. Yivarechecha Yahovah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yahovah panav elecha v'chanecha. Yisa Yahovah panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom b'shem Yeshua HaMashiach Sar Shalom. Yahovah bless you and keep you. Yahovah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of Yeshua, the Prince of Peace. Shabbat Shalom. Stand strong in Messiah. Obey the word, and I will see you when the smoke clears. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes an extreme amount of energy, time, and money to make these broadcasts available, these teachings available to you and to those around the world. And we really need you to seriously stand with us on this very project that Yeshua put us on, to take the gospel of the kingdom that he taught to the entire world in the last days. The opportunity is there. With more than 30 people on staff just here in the United States to make these things available, it takes a lot of money. And if you appreciate the work that we're doing in reaching out to you around the world, please stand with us and stand with us today.